The rain had just stopped falling in the quiet village of Ikeen, leaving behind a sweet smell of wet earth and palm leaves. The air was heavy with the hum of crickets and the distant croak of frogs calling to one another from the swamp. The village lay cradled between thick forests and winding rivers, a place where myths whispered louder than facts, and every family carried a story the world would never believe. When Ikenna, a young man from the city, arrived in Ikeen to visit his grandmother, he had no idea that his life was about to change forever. He was tall, soft-spoken, and carried himself with the confidence of someone raised among cars and tall buildings. Yet, beneath his calm, curious eyes lay a hunger, the kind of curiosity that often leads a man where his feet shouldn't wander. His grandmother, Mama Ebel, was an old woman full of warmth and laughter. Her compound sat at the edge of the village, surrounded by banana trees and a small farm behind the hut. Ikenna had not visited since he was a boy. Everything looked smaller now, the huts, the paths, even the river that once scared him. On his first morning, the cock's crow pulled him out of sleep. The smell of roasted yam and palm oil filled the air. Mama Ebel's wrinkled hands worked quickly over the fire. "Ah, city boy," she teased, not turning to look at him. "You're awake. Come eat something. You will follow me to the farm today. These old bones need your help." He smiled, stretching lazily. "Grandma, are you sure you still farm at your age?" She chuckled. "As long as my legs can walk, I will plant. That's what keeps me alive." They set out just after sunrise, carrying baskets and hoes. The forest path was long and narrow, carpeted with fallen leaves. Birds sang above them, and the smell of dew mixed with wood smoke. Halfway to the farm, Ikenna noticed movement on the far side of the path. A group of young girls walking together, balancing bundles of firewood on their heads. Their laughter floated through the trees like music. But one of them caught his attention, a Dayabi. She was walking barefoot, her skin glistening under the sun, her wrapper tied firmly around her waist. There was something about her, a calm grace that felt out of place among the noise of the others. She had a beauty that wasn't loud or forced. It was ancient, like something carved out of the very spirit of nature. Ikenna slowed his steps without realizing it. His grandmother noticed. "Young man," she said with a teasing smile, "your eyes are about to fall out. That's Adayabi, the daughter of late Ogbu. Don't let your city mind fool you. That one is special." "Special how?" he asked. Mama Ebel gave a knowing look. "You'll hear stories. Don't pay them much mind. Just focus on helping me today." But the seed of curiosity was already planted. As the day passed, Ikenna found it hard to concentrate. Every sound of laughter from the forest made his mind drift back to her. He could still see the way she moved, light, almost floating, like someone walking on air. Later in the afternoon, as they worked on the farm, his grandmother sent him to fetch water from a nearby stream. The path was quiet except for the buzzing of insects. But then he saw her again. Adayabi was a few meters away, walking toward a narrow trail that led deeper into the woods. This time, she wasn't with anyone else. She carried a small basket and hummed a tune so soft it blended with the wind. Ikenna hesitated. Something about the sight tugged at him. He knew it wasn't right to follow her, but curiosity can be stronger than reason. He placed the gourd of water down quietly and followed her, keeping a safe distance. The deeper they went, the thicker the forest became. The air grew damp, and the sound of flowing water echoed faintly. Then she stopped. There was a small clearing ahead, and at its center, a river calm, wide, and shimmering like glass. Adayabi knelt beside the river and dipped her hands into it. Her reflection rippled across the surface. Then she stood, untied her wrapper slowly, and stepped into the water. Ikenna froze behind a tree, his breath caught in his throat. He wasn't sure if he should turn away or stay. What he saw next would change everything he thought he knew about the world. Adayabi walked deeper into the river until the water reached her waist. Then her body began to shimmer, faint at first, like sunlight on glass. Ikenna blinked hard, thinking his eyes were playing tricks. But then her form shifted, her skin taking on silvery scales that glistened under the light. In one terrifying, mesmerizing moment, Adayabe's body elongated and twisted, her lower half transforming into the sleek, gliding form of a python. She was no longer the girl he had seen in the village. Before him stood something otherworldly, half woman, half serpent, moving with grace through the river as though the water itself bowed before her. Ikena's heart pounded so loudly he feared she would hear it. He pressed himself against the tree, trembling. He wanted to run, but his legs refused to move. He watched in silence as Adayabe, now fully a serpent, slipped beneath the surface of the water. For a long time there was nothing, just ripples, just silence. Then she emerged again. The scales faded, the serpent body dissolved, and there she was, Adayabe, once more human, her beauty untouched, her face calm as if nothing had happened. She stepped out of the river, tied her wrapper back around her waist, and picked up her basket. Ikena was still frozen in disbelief. Sweat ran down his temple. He didn't know whether he had just witnessed witchcraft, a miracle, or a curse. As she walked past the clearing and disappeared into the trees, he exhaled sharply. He had to know who she was, what she was. But something inside him, that strange pull he couldn't explain, whispered that his life had just become entangled with forces far beyond human understanding. He waited until she was gone before stepping closer to the river. The water looked peaceful, innocent, as though it hadn't just held a serpent goddess moments ago. He knelt and dipped his fingers into it. The surface was cold, unnaturally cold. When he looked into the water, for a brief second, he swore he saw his own reflection blink back with golden eyes. That night, Ikena couldn't sleep. The image of Adayabe in the river haunted him. The scales, the transformation, the golden glint in her eyes. No matter how many times he told himself it must have been a trick of the light, his heart refused to believe it. The forest outside whispered. The crickets cried in waves. The moon hung low and heavy above the trees, its reflection faintly visible on the thatched roof of his grandmother's hut. He turned over again and again until finally, Mama Ebel's voice startled him. "Why are you still awake, my son?" she asked softly from her mat. He hesitated, then lied. "Just not used to the village night, Mama. It's too quiet." Mama Ebel chuckled. "Quiet? Ha! This place never sleeps. Even when you close your eyes, the spirits of the forest walk around." Her voice was calm, but the words sent chills down his spine. After she drifted off to sleep, Ikena lay still for a while before sneaking out. The night air was thick with mist. He walked until he reached the same path from earlier that day. The forest was darker now, the shadows deeper. He told himself he was being foolish, but curiosity had taken root in his bones. When he reached the clearing near the river, everything looked still. But the silence wasn't peaceful. It was watchful, like the world itself was holding its breath. He walked closer and dipped a stick into the water, half expecting something to jump out. Nothing happened. Then suddenly, from behind him, a voice spoke, soft, almost whispering. "You followed me again." He froze. Slowly he turned. Adayabe stood there, barefoot, her eyes calm but unreadable. The moonlight wrapped around her like a second skin. I didn't mean to," he stammered. "You did," she said simply, stepping closer. "You should not have." Her voice was melodic, yet heavy, as though every word carried the weight of something ancient. "I saw what you did," he blurted. "By the river. You changed." Adayabe's expression didn't flinch. She simply stared at him for a moment that felt too long. "You saw what no man was meant to see." Her tone wasn't angry. It was sad, almost resigned. "I didn't mean to spy," Ikena said quickly. I couldn't understand what I was seeing." "Who are you?" Adayabe looked at the river, her reflection glimmering faintly. "I am many things," she whispered, "and none of them belong to this world you know." The forest grew colder. The mist thickened. "I should erase what you saw," she said softly. "It is forbidden for mortals to witness my true form." He took a step back, fear and awe tangled in his chest. "Please, I won't tell anyone. I swear it." Adaobi looked at him again. This time, something flickered in her gaze. Curiosity, pity, or something deeper. "Why did you follow me?" she asked. "I don't know," he said honestly. "I just couldn't look away. You're not like anyone I've ever seen." For a long time, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the river flowing softly behind them. Then Adaobi sighed. "You are foolish, city boy," she said. "Curiosity brings death in places like this." Yet, instead of disappearing, she turned away and began walking along the riverbank. "Come," she said quietly. "If the gods have allowed you to see, then perhaps they want you to understand." He followed her cautiously. The moonlight shimmered on the water, and for a moment, it looked like the surface itself was alive. She stopped near a small stone altar, ancient, covered in moss, with faint carvings of snakes winding around it. "This is my father's shrine," she said. "He was the guardian of this river. Before he died, he bound his blood to the water. That blood flows in me." Akenna listened, mesmerized. "You mean you're a goddess?" Adaobi smiled faintly. "Some would call me that. Others would call me cursed. My kind walk both worlds, the spirit and the flesh." She knelt beside the altar, her fingers tracing the old symbols. "Every full moon, I return here to renew the bond. Without it, I fade." Akenna stepped closer, his voice soft. "Fade? Into what?" Her eyes lifted to his, the sadness in them deep as the river itself. "Into nothing." The silence that followed felt heavy. Then, without warning, Adaobi touched the altar again, and the water beside them rippled. A faint blue glow pulsed beneath the surface. Akenna gasped. The light spread like veins through the river, illuminating the trees around them. He had never seen anything like it. It was beautiful, terrifyingly beautiful. Adaobi stood and turned to him. "Now you know what I am," she said. "You should leave this village before dawn. Forget you ever saw me." He shook his head. "I can't." Her brows furrowed. "Why not?" "Because I don't think I can forget you," he said quietly. Something in Adaobi's expression softened, but only for a second. "You're a fool," she said again, but her voice trembled this time. "I know," he replied, "but even fools can fall in love." The moment the words left his lips, the forest seemed to react. The wind changed. The air grew heavy. Adaobi stepped back slightly, her eyes wide. "You don't understand what you're saying," she whispered. "Love between my kind and yours brings ruin." "I don't care," Akenna said. "I'm not afraid." Adaobi looked away, toward the glowing river. "You should be." Thunder rumbled in the distance, low, warning, ancient. She turned back to him. "Go home, Akenna. Forget this place. Forget me." He didn't move. "I won't," he said simply. For a long moment, they stared at each other. The air between them shimmered with something unseen, a bond neither of them understood yet. Adaobi sighed, her voice barely a whisper. "Then may the gods forgive you." And just like that, she stepped backward into the river. Not sinking, but dissolving, her form fading into light until there was nothing left but ripples and moonlight. Akenna stood alone, trembling. He knew he should run back to the village, but his heart refused to leave. He sat by the riverbank until dawn, waiting for her to return. When the first rays of sunlight touched the water, he saw something glinting on the shore. A small beaded bracelet, half buried in the sand. He picked it up gently. The moment he touched it, a faint voice echoed in his mind. Adaobi's voice. "You should have left when you had the chance." He dropped it in shock, but the bracelet clung to his wrist as if invisible hands held it there. He pulled, twisted, tried to tear it off. It didn't budge. The air felt strange around him. A light breeze carried a whisper that wasn't the wind. From that day, nothing in Akenna's life would ever be normal again. For weeks after that night, Akenna tried to return to normal life, but nothing was normal anymore. The bracelet never came off. No knife, no flame, no force could break it. It clung to his wrist like a living thing, its beads pulsing faintly at midnight. At first, he hid it under his sleeve, pretending it was just an ornament. But deep inside he felt it, her presence. Sometimes he could even hear a whisper when the wind blew through the palm trees. "Why didn't you leave, Ikenna? Why did you bind yourself to me?" He thought he was losing his mind. The villagers began to notice too. They said the city boy looked pale, distracted. He'd wander near the forest at odd hours, staring at nothing. Even Mama Ebel grew worried. One night she found him sitting outside, his eyes fixed on the moon. "Ikenna," she said softly. "Who are you talking to?" He blinked, confused. "Did you not hear her?" "Hear who?" He paused. "Adayabi." Mama Ebel froze. Her wrinkled face lost all color. "That name, where did you hear it?" He turned to her. "You know her?" Instead of answering, Mama Ebel stood up, trembling. "You must never say that name again. That girl is not what she seems." "I know," Ikenna said quietly. "She told me." The old woman's voice dropped to a whisper. "Then you are already marked." That night, Ikenna couldn't sleep again. He tossed and turned, until the sound of water dripping reached his ears. But there was no rain. He followed the sound outside and froze. There, in the middle of the compound, stood Adayabi. Her feet were bare, her dress wet as though she'd just stepped out of the river. Moonlight shimmered around her like mist. "I told you not to call me," she said softly. "I didn't," Ikenna replied. "You came on your own." Her eyes darted to the bracelet on his wrist. "You kept it. I couldn't take it off." "That is because you have accepted my bond." He frowned. "Your bond?" Adayabi stepped closer. "The bracelet you wear is the mark of the river spirit. Through it my essence flows into you. You have become part of my world now, whether you want it or not." He stared at her, the truth slowly dawning. "So I'm cursed?" Adayabi's expression softened. "No, you are chosen." "Chosen for what?" She didn't answer. Instead, she touched his wrist. The moment her fingers brushed the beads, warmth spread through his veins, flooding his chest. His eyes fluttered. For a split second he saw visions, flashes of her world. A vast underwater kingdom made of light and coral. Thousands of spirits drifting like stars beneath the surface. Her voice echoed through it all, ancient and mournful. When he came to, he was still standing by his hut, but Adayabi was gone. The bracelet glowed faintly before fading back to normal. The next morning, strange things began happening. When he touched the river water, it rippled on its own. When he spoke, birds quieted. When he closed his eyes, he could sense life moving beneath the ground, roots, fish, the hum of the world itself. At first, he thought it was a gift, but soon the dreams began. Every night, he'd see Adayabi standing in the middle of the river, crying. Her tears turned the water red. He tried to reach her, but every time he got close, something pulled him under. He'd wake up gasping, his body soaked in sweat, the bracelet burning hot. Then, one day, the village river turned murky. Fish floated dead. The air smelled like decay. The elders gathered, terrified. "The goddess is angry," they said. "Someone has broken the ancient balance." Ikenna stood in the crowd, silent. Deep down, he knew the truth. It was him. That night, Mama Ebel came to him again, holding an old calabash covered in symbols. "There is something you must know," she said. "Long ago, the goddess of this river fell in love with a mortal man. When he betrayed her, she cursed his bloodline to suffer every 100 years. You, Ikenna, are his descendant." The words hit him like thunder. "So this was all fated?" Mama Ebel nodded slowly. "The spirit found you because the bond was never broken." He looked down at the bracelet. It glowed faintly, almost alive. "Then how do I stop it?" The old woman sighed. "You can't, unless she chooses to release you. But no goddess forgives easily." He left the hut before dawn, heading straight for the forest. He didn't care about curses anymore. He needed answers. When he reached the river, the air felt different, heavier, charged. The water was still dark, but beneath the surface, he saw movement. "Adayabi," he shouted. "Show yourself." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the water began to swirl. Slowly, she rose from the river, her eyes glowing faint gold. "You should not have called me again," she said, her voice echoing through the trees. "I don't care about rules," Akenna shouted. "If I'm bound to you, then tell me why. Tell me what you want." Adaobi looked at him for a long time before speaking. "I wanted peace, but you have disturbed the balance. The bond between us has awakened the curse." He frowned. "Curse? Yes, the river must take a life to restore harmony. And now the river has chosen." Akenna took a step back. "Chosen who?" Adaobi's eyes flickered with pain. "You." He stared at her in disbelief. "You're lying." "I wish I were," she whispered. "I tried to protect you, but the bond is ancient. It demands blood." He shook his head. "Then take me, but promise me something. End the curse after me." Adaobi's expression crumbled. "You fool," she said, tears glistening in her eyes. "Do you not see? I love you." The words hung in the air, soft yet devastating. She stepped closer, her hand trembling as she touched his cheek. "If I take your life, I lose mine too. But if I let you live, the river will die." He held her gaze. "Then let it take me." Adaobi closed her eyes, shaking her head. "No, I won't lose you again." "Again?" he whispered. She opened her eyes, and he saw it. Flashes of memory that weren't his. A man, long ago, standing at the same riverbank. Her voice, her tears, his betrayal. He was the man she once loved. His soul reborn. The truth hit them both at once. Fate had brought them back together, only to tear them apart again. The wind howled. The river roared. Adaobi fell to her knees. "I will find another way," she said desperately. "Even if it means defying the gods." She raised her hands toward the water, chanting in a tongue older than the land itself. The river surged violently, waves crashing against the banks. Akenna tried to reach her, but an invisible force held him back. The bracelet burned like fire. "Adaobi, stop!" he screamed, but she didn't. She kept chanting, her body glowing brighter and brighter until the light swallowed everything. And then silence. When Akenna opened his eyes, the river was calm again. Adaobi was gone. The bracelet had turned to dust. He fell to his knees, heart breaking, realizing what she had done. She sacrificed herself to save him. The villagers later said that the river cleared that night. The fish returned. The land healed. But Akenna never spoke again. He became quiet, withdrawn, spending his days by the riverbank, waiting, hoping that maybe, one day, the goddess he loved would return with the tide. Sometimes, when the moon was full, people swore they saw her reflection beside him, a faint figure smiling through the mist. Years passed after that night. The river healed, the land grew fertile again, and people soon forgot about the strange curse that once haunted the village of Ikeen. But not Akenna. He remained there, in his grandmother's compound, though Mama Ebel had long gone to rest with the ancestors. He spoke little, smiled less, and each evening when the sun dipped behind the palm trees, he would take his stool and sit by the riverbank, staring into the endless water. Sometimes he would whisper her name, softly, like a prayer. "Adaobi." The wind would answer with a sigh, and ripples would dance across the surface. Children grew up hearing stories of the riverman. They said he was once a city prince who fell in love with a goddess and lost his mind. But no one ever truly knew the depth of what he lost. One night, during the festival of the full moon, when the villagers gathered to dance and praise the gods, Akenna sat alone by the river, as always. The moon was unusually large that night, glowing like polished silver. The air was warm, still. He closed his eyes and, for the first time in years, spoke out loud. "If you can still hear me, I never stopped waiting." Silence. Then faintly a melody. A soft, familiar tune, the same lullaby Adaobi used to hum. His eyes flew open. The river shimmered. The surface rippled as though stirred by invisible hands. Slowly, a form began to rise, delicate, luminous. It was her, Adeabi, but not as he remembered. She was translucent, her skin glowing faintly like moonlight on water. Her eyes were calm, eternal. She smiled, that same soft smile that had once melted his heart. "Ikenna," she said gently. He froze, unable to breathe. "Adeabi, is it really you?" She nodded. "I came to see you one last time." He took a step closer, tears blurring his vision. "Why now? After all these years?" "The gods have forgiven me," she said. "The river is at peace again, but my spirit cannot stay. I wanted to tell you, thank you." "For what?" "For loving me, for choosing me even when the world feared me." He shook his head. "You didn't have to thank me. I should be the one thanking you for saving me." Adeabi's expression softened. "Love always demands sacrifice. Yours was to live. Mine was to let go." The river glowed around her, waves glistening in rhythm with her words. "I have watched you," she continued. "Every day since that night. You kept your promise. You waited. I couldn't move on," he whispered. "How could I? You were everywhere. In the wind, in the water, in every dream." She smiled sadly. "Then let me free you now." Ikenna frowned. "What do you mean?" "The bond between us still lingers, ties your soul to this river. That's why you could never leave. But tonight, under the last moon, I can release it." He shook his head quickly. "No. If you release it, I'll forget you." Adeabi's voice broke. "And that's why I hesitated for so long." She raised her hand, palm glowing faintly. "But your spirit must live. You deserve peace." He grabbed her hand, even though it felt like mist. "Please don't. Let me remember you, even if it hurts." Adeabi's eyes shimmered with tears. "Love isn't meant to trap. It's meant to set free." He opened his mouth to protest, but before he could, she leaned forward and kissed his forehead. The moment her lips touched him, a surge of warmth flooded his body. Visions filled his mind. Every memory of her, every moment they shared, every word they spoke, flashing like stars before fading one by one. When the light dimmed, Adeabi was gone. The river was silent again. He stood there for a long time, dazed, tears streaming down his face, though he no longer knew why. The next morning, villagers found him by the riverbank, asleep against the tree, his face peaceful for the first time in years. When they tried to wake him, he didn't stir. His heart had stopped sometime before dawn. But there was something strange. His lips were curved into a faint smile, and beside him, half buried in the sand, was a single white bead glowing faintly in the morning sun. They buried him beside the river, as he had always wanted. And on quiet nights, when the moonlight touches the water just right, some say you can see two figures, one human, one spirit, standing side by side, hand in hand, watching over the village that once feared their love. Over time, the story of Ikenna and Adeabi became a legend told by elders around fires, a tale of love that defied gods and time itself. And though the years passed, the villagers swore that every time it rained, the river whispered softly, a sound like laughter and tears mingled together. Some loves never die, they just change form.